You are now live. Okay. Hi. I'm not sure that anybody's here, but look, I got a notice for myself that we're live, so maybe that's a good thing. But hi, Lee and I are here.
Hi.
And hi, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started, and hopefully maybe we'll have some people joining us. And we're so excited. This is our first live. I hope your expectations are low, but we're so excited to be doing it because it's so fun. Because it's like we're all cooking together in the kitchen. Okay, so we're gonna start with the bread. Here's a little visual. So this will be the third time that I've made the bread. I made it yesterday. I made it over Christmas when my parents were here. It's delightful. It's definitely a bread that is not like your super moist, scone-y type bread. It is like a little bit of a drier texture. So because of that, I made one adaptation yesterday. I did a half a cup of milk instead of a third of a cup, and I think it makes a big difference. And then I also wrapped it in foil in the end, but we'll get to that. But let's get to cooking. So if you haven't preheated your oven already, go ahead and preheat your oven. You always want to have your oven preheated as soon as your bread or your scone or your cake is made, because of the rising factors of the bread. It's not going to be it's not going to proof as much. It's not going to rise as much. The baking soda won't react as much. So you want that ready to go. So go ahead and preheat your oven. That's why they ask you to do that, and to prep your pan. And so I'm going to spray the pan. I'm just going to use some avocado oil to spray it. Baker's Joy obviously always works really, really well if you want to use that. And the pan that she calls for is actually a little bit smaller. This is like a banana bread loaf pan, and this is a medium-sized pan. She said that if you're using the bigger one, you want to cook it less. But if you have this small pan, I feel like these are the little things that I wish I invested in the $10 to make the recipe right, over and over again. So anyway, I sprayed the pan. So we're gonna get started. Okay, I'm gonna just show y'all. I prepped all the ingredients down here. And so we're gonna start with the flour. Okay, so I've got 1 3/4 cup of flour, and I'm gonna add the baking powder and the salt. And I'm doing the full tablespoon of salt because I just always think that it needs it. And I also love using the Diamond Kosher brand salt, Diamond Crystal. If you're using Morton's, this is your year for the Diamond Crystal salt. It's less salty, so you can salt more liberally and it won't ever be over salted. But a lot of professional recipes always call for this. Ina Garden calls for this. So when you're like, oh my gosh, that's so much salt, it's actually because she's using Diamond Crystal. So switch your salts. Okay, so I added the salt, and then I'm gonna add the pepper. I don't have fresh ground white pepper. I feel like using white pepper is very chic and very French. And she uses it in a lot of her recipes. I always use it to roast vegetables. I think it makes a big difference. But anyway, I think it's worth adding to your spice collection. So I'm just gonna whisk that together real quick. And then I've got 3 eggs that I'm gonna put into the thing at room temperature. Now, if you're ever wanting to cook right away and you don't have your eggs at room temperature yet, the best thing you can do is crack them, because they'll come to room temperature quicker if they're cracked than if they're not cracked, because the shell kind of acts as a little refrigerator to them. Okay, so whisking the eggs until frothy for a minute. Oh, hey, Erin. I'm just looking at all of our friends who joined everywhere. Thank you for your support. We love you so much. And it's a miracle people we don't know are actually logged on too. Hi, people we don't know personally. We are so excited to know you via Instagram.
Thank you.
Okay, so whisk the egg for a minute, and then I'm gonna add the milk. Like I said, I did a half a cup instead of the third of a cup, because I just feel like it's gonna make it a little moister. Okay, so we got the milk going, and then the next thing is the olive oil. Now, like I said, I've made this twice, and I love this recipe, and I can't help it since I'm making this a third time. I'm gonna try butter this time and just see if it makes a difference. So I have a third cup of butter, but use the olive oil. Next time, use the butter. I'll report back and let you know how it is. Okay, and then we're gonna just pour this. Let me show you. cut into the center. One of the keys is we do not want to overmix this. So pour it in, and we're gonna just use the folding, like a little folding. I always think of that Schitt's Creek where, you know, David's like, it says fold, will you fold? I don't know how to fold. I mean, if you're a Schitt's Creek follower, you know that one. But anyway, so we don't want to over combine it, so I'm just gonna fold it all kind of together till it's combined lightly. And then we're gonna add in the cheese. And so here's a big tip for the cheese. We have a friend who might be on here, might not. Hi, Kim.
Kim?
Who used pre-shredded cheese, and you definitely don't want to use pre-shredded cheese because it has like a powder that prevents it from caking, and it's going to dry out your bread or any baked good you ever make. So grate it yourself. Like I said, I'm doing like a cheddar this time. You can do whatever. The first time I did it, I used Gruyere and it was delicious. This time I'm using, yesterday when I did it, I used just cheddar. Today I'm using half Gruyere, half cheddar. So I'm gonna put it onto the thing and and then the herbs. And then the herbs, again, you can use whatever you want. I'm using half scallion, half dill. And I also think that it's a good one to use because I love those cheddar dill scones that Ina Garden does. So it's kind of like, if we can make a loaf of that, it would be so fun, right? Oh, hi Tim, my uncle's on. Loving the support right now. So fun. Okay, so I'm just folding in the cheese and the herbs, right? And so that was so easy. Honestly, how many minutes are we in? Oh, 6 minutes. So that took 6 minutes to put together. And I'm just gonna pour it right into the dish. And make sure I didn't leave out any. Oh, I didn't do the walnuts. I'm not a big like nut in the bread type person, so I'm always going to probably opt out of that. But like I said, the cool thing about this recipe, and I feel like all of these recipes are, there's, you know, I guess this is how you say it in French. I am not a French speaker, but it's like a bone-eyed, and it's, or I wish someone could tell me how you actually pronounce that the right way, because I know that's wrong for sure. But I feel like there's so many adaptations and there's no like 100%. It's kind of like, here is a, you know, overall template of like what you can do, and you can incorporate different things to make it to your taste and to your liking. Okay, so I just smoothed out the top a little bit. I'm gonna just bang it down one time because I feel like that helps. You could sprinkle extra cheese on top. No one's gonna be mad at you for that. And then we're gonna go ahead and just pop that in the oven. Please don't put in the oven for me. Okay, great. Let me get my towel.
Okay, great.
Towel. Oh, here. Okay, got it. All right. So that's going to go in the oven for 30, it says 35 to 45 minutes. Do not overcook this because, like I said earlier, it is a drier bread. It's not like super moist. So if you overcook it, it's going to feel more that way. And I personally like this, like slice it, toast it, butter it, serve it with, you know, a soup, serve it with a salad. She recommends serving it as an hors d'oeuvre, basically slicing it into little fingers. I feel like that sounds very French and cool. I would never think to do that. So maybe we'll try that sometime. But I think that it's like a great thing that you can use over and over again. And I personally like to have an egg at breakfast on it. Okay, so while that cooks, let me set the timer.
I set the timer already.
Okay, timer set. We're going to do the soup. And so I'm going to switch to the next page. Now, this recipe, well, this menu that we picked, here, I'm going to move this over here. Basically, we picked it because I was thinking, what are recipes that I feel like you can use over and over again, that you can use for a dinner party and have like the whole thing kind of put together. Sorry, you're like seeing a whole tour of probably what is my messy house. Why didn't that work? Lee? Got it? Okay, got it. But anyway, but these are recipes I feel like you can use a lot and would go together really nicely as a whole menu. And so like you're set to go for a whole menu if you want to go for a whole menu, or you can make them individually. So this soup, I love that it's not creamed based. I love that it's like feels different than probably something that's in your everyday repertoire. It's healthy. which is great for January, right? And I just think it would be a beautiful first course to the roasted chicken that we're gonna do in our next live. So anyway, I'm gonna start by taking a tablespoon of butter and melting it over medium low heat. And then the first thing we're gonna do is, okay, I think we finally, okay, got it set up, is we're gonna saute the onions and the garlic. Now, I have the onions chopped up, and they said the garlic, use it with the germ removed. So what the germ is, it's that center part that can get green. I personally do not think, I have never ever removed that in my entire life or taken the time to do that. You can if you want to. They say that sometimes that's what can cause bitterness in your garlic, but anyway, I'm opting out of that. So my butter's melted. So first I'm gonna add my onions that I chopped, and then I'm gonna add the garlic. So there's three cloves of that. And we're gonna let all of this saute for about 5 minutes. So, and I would love to hear if anybody else has made any other recipes from this cookbook that they love. My friend Kat Emerson highly recommended this soup, and that's part of the reason that I also wanted to put it on the menu as one of her favorites. But when I got it, some of the ones that I've loved making already are the pot roast, which was lovely as could be. And obviously I made the bread. I've made the mousse, which we're going to do next time with the roasted chicken. And that was that one where we added peppermint and coffee, like to make it peppermint mocha. And then I made that a second time for Christmas with just peppermint, and it was a huge hit. And then I think, so what we're gonna do for the next class is we're gonna do orange. So hope you'll join us for that one. Get your orange extract, and we'll put some orange zest in it. And I feel like it'll be a fun citrus version of it, since it's winter and it's really a citrus season. So anyway, that's what's coming up next. But I'd love to see if you have any great recipes that you've cooked from the book. Okay, so that's sauteing for a few minutes. And then we are going to add the mushrooms. So I feel like we don't buy white mushrooms that often from the grocery store anymore. I often buy portobellos, but cleaning them, you just want to take a white, wet paper towel and wipe off the dirt from the top. Don't ever run your mushrooms underneath the water, because they're like sponges. So they'll absorb all of the water that's, that you pour into it, and they'll lose their flavor. And because they have a lot of water, part of what we want to do when we cook them down is cook the water out. So when you slice them, one of the biggest things is don't overcrowd your pan, because that's why I'm using this like literally gigantic Dutch oven. But you don't want to overcrowd your pan, because then they'll just steam together and they won't really brown. And so there's a lot of mushrooms, pound and a half of mushrooms. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. And it says to do it at first over like medium, low, or medium. I made a little bit of the soup before. I'm going to turn it up a little bit higher than that. It's about like just over medium towards medium high, and let those go ahead and cook, because what you want in order to get that good mushroom flavor is for the mushrooms to release their water, and then the water that was in the mushrooms to evaporate, so that at the end it's dry. So however long you need to cook this, basically to see the mushrooms start releasing some flavor, and then your pan having basically no juices on the bottom of it, that feels to me like it would be the right amount of time to cook your mushrooms. But she says about 3 minutes, so we'll see. Okay, well, while we let those cook, and I'm curious, is anyone actually cooking with us? Because I would be amazed. I'm hoping that we're going to save this so that everyone can reference this for another time. But I'm curious. Is anyone actually cooking with us? Oh, hey, by the way, someone says they love my aprons. This is our friend Brooke from Monogram Mary. If you don't follow her on Instagram, please follow her. She has all of the cutest stuff, and she did these for us with our logos on them, which is obviously my favorite apron now. I'm just looking at the rest of the comments. Okay, so while we take a quick pause break, we thought it'd be fun to incorporate a little surprise cocktail, a French cocktail. And so I'm gonna grab the ingredients while Lee stirs the mushrooms real quick. So if you've ever been to like a French bistro, you've probably had a Kir Royale, which is basically just some sort of sparkling wine and either cassis, which is like a blackberry liqueur, or it's not, it's what are those berries called? What are those berries called? Not blackberries, anyway, but not elderberry. No. We all need elderberry right now, but what is the one that Chambord is the one that's really good? It has kind of like all the berries and vanilla. They didn't have that. So we're just going to do this, but this is great. And if you ever want to make these, my tip is to make sure you refrigerate. Blackcurrant. Refrigerate the liqueur as well as the champagne, because there's nothing worse than putting warm liqueur into a glass with cold champagne and then thinking that your cocktail's going to be cold. So anyway, make sure that you refrigerate them both. And this is kind of just like a little perfect, we love a cocktail thing to drink with maybe if you slice your bread. Maybe if you slice your bread and you have it as an appetizer, like Dori recommends. By the way, I sent Dori an email or a message on Instagram to let her know we were cooking her book today, but weirdly, I haven't gotten a response yet. So I'll let you know if we do. Anyway, cheers. Cheers. Okay, I'm just looking at the notes. Okay, yay, I'm glad people are cooking it. Another person cooked the bread. Someone says, I love that. Okay, so our mushrooms are still cooking for a little bit. And so what are we going to do next? I did like one of those great hacks where, I tried to make some stuff in advance a little bit so that we could not have to wait forever and see, especially since we're not all cooking together. So basically, to this, once all of the liquids have come out, and I'm going to show you when that happens, which it hasn't yet, we're going to add, it says white wine. And a tip that I have is if you don't have the white wine in the refrigerator, you can always use dry vermouth because it's basically the same thing, especially if you get a good dry vermouth. This is my favorite. So we'll use that when we're ready for that, and we'll add some broth, and we'll add our herbs. So like I said, I'm going to show you what the mushrooms look like when they start to release their liquids and when they're ready. But I did already make a half recipe. And I'm going to show you so basically this is the mushrooms with, all of the broth and all of the herbs. And I'm going to show you kind of a final product, but I'll go back to the cooking mushrooms and let you know and show you when they start to release everything. So anyway, to puree it, you can use a blender, you can use whatever you want. I am going to use an immersion blender. We pass an immersion blender. If you don't have this tool in your kitchen, then you need to get it right away. This is like literally $25, $30. So easy. Talk about cleanup. You literally stick it into the pot and you don't have to worry about cleaning up anything extra. It's so easy. And I use it for soups. You can literally use it for smoothies as well if you wanted to.
So we can get closer.
Anyway, so I'm gonna let Lee.
Should I hold it over there?
I'm gonna let her do that so you can see what it looks like. But this recipe, Dori said her whole thing was she loved this recipe when she went to a restaurant in Paris and they served it in like a terrine, and they served it on a shallow bowl. So I have a shallow bowl here, and they basically put like a little salad in it, and then you're presented with the salad, and then they pour the soup on top. And I love that because it kind of combines the textures of like a cooked soup with the non-cooked ingredients, and it'll also kind of cook your mushrooms for you. So she just like put a mushroom as a topping. I'm not gonna just put a whole mushroom in the middle of the bottom of my bowl. So I am putting like a little bit of these diced up mushrooms that are not cooked. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of this herb mixture that she put, like it's like your little salad, which I just love this for like the crunch. So this is kind of how your broth, this is what your broth, so you brought like this. and then there's a tureen of the soup that you ladle on top. So I feel like that would be such a chic way to do a first course. You would have this like just sitting at everyone's plate. Obviously everything's made in advance and for the first course, and then you just go around and like ladle the soup on top. Anyway, I love that idea. Okay, so how's it looking?
Good.
Okay, I think that's good. So I'm gonna ladle some of this on top. And then I do want to show you the mushrooms and the way that they should look when they start to release. I'm going to take this off the stand. Okay, so I don't want it to get foggy. Can you see? Here we go. So as you can see, the mushrooms are starting to release some of their flavor, their water. It's on the bottom of the pan right here. And so what we want to do is I'm going to actually turn the heat up just a little bit, because when we get to the point when it's releasing the water, then I just want it to basically boil the water or, off. By the way, look at this cute spoon that my mom got me for Christmas. It's Jonathan Spoons. If you want to look them up, they're a little small company with really cool stuff. Okay, so then here is our soup. I'll show you. So the salad's kind of in the bottom. You can also put it on top if you want. And then you can garnish with a little bit of creme fraiche on top. Get a different spoon. Okay. I feel like you could get try to make it look real nice, which I'm not going to even bother to do today. But anyway, so here we go. This is the Paris mushroom soup. So I'm going to taste it. I'm going to let the creme fraiche kind of go in here a little bit. So good. Don't forget to season with salt and pepper, because I would put a little salt, but I always want to put more salt in the end. I love actually how you chew the mushroom a little bit, and you get that good texture and the good texture of the herbs, kind of crunchy, like a little salad, with the warmth of the soup. Very delicious. Okay, so as you can see, more liquid's coming out. It's about to all be gone. As soon as your liquid's all gone, that's when we're going to add 1/3 cup of dry wine. So, hold that or put it back on there. So, you see, so I'm pulling back and away, and there's basically no liquid left. So you could let it probably cook for another minute or two, but I'm going to go ahead and pour in 1/3 cup. So I'm eyeballing it. That feels about right. And then we're going to let that cook off on high, and that's going to give it its kind of acidity that it needs to have, the wine, and give it that nice layer of flavor. I feel like that's always a layer of flavor that's missing in a dish when something feels like it's missing. So we'll let that cook off for a minute. But okay, back to the book. I wanted to also share with you, whenever I get a cookbook, because I'm crazy for cookbooks, and I really feel like this is the way that if you love to cook, you can teach yourself to cook. I learned so many tips by actually reading the cookbooks, and it's interesting because this cookbook has no pictures or very few pictures in it, and we got some DMs from people saying, oh my gosh, this is intimidating, there's no pictures. Some of the recipes are titles are written in French, and I totally agree. But I really think that this is, if you read everything, you read a recipe, you read it a few times all the way through first, you read all of her tips, because she has a lot of good tips. I really feel like she's the OG. I feel like Ina Garten was inspired by her. A lot of Ina's recipes that are in her Paris cookbook or in a lot of her other cookbooks feel very similar, they're inspired from Dori. And anyway, read it all the way through. You'll learn so many tips of how to cook. And that's how I'm always continuously learning. But I always read through like a book. I like to read all the stories and stuff. And then I like to make little lists of all of the recipes. Well, that one's on the recipe one that I want to try. And then when I'm wondering what I'm going to make for anything, or just, I always try to cook at least one new recipe every week. I'll always go back and look at all my little lists and see what I want to make. But a lot of the fun little appetizers in here are things that we've already done. Same idea, the warm olives. These Cheez-It-ish crackers are wafers. Which, by the way, if you got rosemary today to put into the soup and you have extra rosemary, make our nuts. because they're so good.
So good.
Okay, so all the liquid is cooked off. So now I'm gonna add the sprig of rosemary, which they tell you later to fish out. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and like pick it off of the stem so that I don't have to worry about that later. Because this hard stem, you don't wanna have someone bite into that. So I'm gonna pull all the rosemary off of the stem actually before I put it in here. And then I'm gonna add the parsley and then add the chicken broth, chicken stock, because there's 6 cups of that.
Somebody asked what kind of immersion blender. It's a Cuisinart Smart Stick.
I want to link a couple of our favorite things actually for the kitchen in our profile. Like, for example, this is a spatula that's changed my life. It's like a fish spatula, but I use it for everything because it's nice and thin and gets underneath things. It's a Cuisinart. And I think that literally whatever they say is like Amazon best, Amazon recommends, I would just use that one because I don't think it has to be like super high tech. It doesn't, you know, I have had no problems and I think ours is pretty basic. So, okay, so we got all the chicken broth in there, and then what it says is basically cover it almost all the way and bring it to a boil, let it simmer for 20 minutes. And anything, yeah, questions about it. And that's just to make sure you don't want like, if you leave something simmering uncovered, it's because you want it to reduce and get like less liquid, right? And so covering it almost all the way means that we're just like letting all the flavors meld together. We're not trying to reduce the stock of it. So, okay, so we're gonna do that. And then basically that's a soup because we showed you what it was like. We, you know, the final product, as soon as the 20 minutes are over, you're gonna use your immersion blender or your blender or whatever you want to food processor. And then you're gonna assemble it the way that we just did. And that'll be that. Okay, how much more time do we have on the bread?
16 minutes on the bread.
16?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna chat with you for about 1 more minute, and then I'm gonna like, since we already did the bread and it's gonna all come out of the oven basically the same, I'm gonna let everybody have their time spent otherwise than listening to me talk for 16 minutes. But if anyone has any questions about these recipes, let me know. Here's our finished bread. Like I said, slice it up, toast it up, butter it up, serve it with soup, serve it with salad, serve it with a poached egg on top of it for breakfast. Be chic like Dori and serve it as an appetizer. We love the idea. Okay, let me make sure there's nothing new.
We'll let you know how it goes with the butter too.
Yeah, loves the idea of trying a recipe every week. I love a new recipe every week. Will get you out of a rut, and take your cookbook and look through your cookbook and write all the things that inspire you to make, and then you'll have a list of things you want to do. I have like notes in my phone of that. It just makes cooking fun. But anyway, this is the most fun. I hope that you've learned something, some tip. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're gonna do the chicken and the mousse the next time. And so, cheers, ladies.
Cheers. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining. Now, of course, I don't know how to turn it off. Just X. Bye. Are you sure you want to end?